Hi guys, welcome to lab 2. In this lab, we will create a virtual machine in Azure Cloud. Then we will install some apps in it. Then we will generalize the VM by using sysprep. Then we will capture the image of that VM. And finally, we will use that captured image to deploy other virtual machines. The advantage will be that those VMs will be deployed with the pre-installed apps that we have done in step 2. And this can save you a lot of time. To start with, we need to create resource group. We will create first resource group in which we will put this virtual machine inside that group, and then another resource group we will create where we can put our captured image in it. Okay, so let's start. So let's start creating resource group. Click on resource group and click here on resource group and just call it my VM. Choose the region. I'm choosing West US2 because it's cheap and it's good for lab. Let's click on review and create and click on create. It will take 2 seconds really to get that created. It's done. So first resource group is done. Second resource group, we will put our captured image in it. So let's do that again. Click on new. So that's going to be name of my second resource group. And again, I'm going to choose the same region, West US2, and review and create. Okay, so that is done. Now the next step is to create a virtual machine. So let's click on Microsoft Azure. Alternatively, you can simply type virtual machine here anyway, but if you click on here, you will see virtual machines. So let's click on that. Let's click on add virtual machine. Now, so in here, we need to choose our resource group. So I'm gonna choose my VM. This is the first resource group that I created. We need to define a name. So I'm simply gonna say Windows Server. I'm happy with that region. I don't need any kind of redundancy for availability zone or availability set. All I need is to choose the correct image. So let me see if I can see the option of server here. So I can see, let me choose 2016 data center version. Yeah, and then do not click on that because Azure Spot instance is something that Azure will put your virtual machine in a spare capacity of any server in the data center. But if Azure need that capacity, then it can take your VM, rather it can delocate your VM and probably put it somewhere else. We don't want it to be done in this lab. Yeah, it's cheap to get a Spot instance, but for this lab it's not relevant. Now for this size, if I click on all sizes, now what you see here, the various various configuration here, but what this really means that if my VM keep running for a whole month day and night, then this amount of money I will have to pay. Yeah, so I'm happy with this configuration with 2 virtual CPUs, 4 GB RAM, 4 data disk, maximum input outputs 1280. I'm happy with it. So let's click on select, and it's only going to cost me 22 pounds for a whole month if I keep it running, but I'm only doing that for this lab anyway. So let's click on select. Let's define a name for our username. So let's call it VM secret. And this will be the first ever login username when the VM will be ready. Let's put a password for this. Do not forget this. Make sure our RDP is open. Good, 3389 is fine. And then let's click on disk on the top. And in there, I'm happy with standard SSD. Rest is fine. Let's click on networking. Now this will also create a virtual network which will be associated with this VM. I'm happy with this subnet. I don't want to change it. Let's click on management, and in here I don't want boot diagnostics. I'm going to disable it, otherwise it will end up creating a storage account. So for this lab you really don't need it. Now let's click on advanced, and I don't need to select any extension to install alongside when VM get created. So all I would do is click on review and create, and it's reviewing it. It's running a validation. The validation is passed. This is the cost of the VM going to be per hour. So let's click on create. Now while this is deploying, I'm gonna pause this video. The deployment is complete, and now we can connect to this virtual machine. So I'm simply gonna click on go to resource. All I need is the public IP address of the virtual machine, and let's open my remote desktop and let's remote into that. Remember, we have defined this username and password while creating this virtual machine, so that's all we're gonna need. Well, let me try. Okay, let's click on yes, and that will take me to that VM. We are logging in first ever time in this VM, so it could take a while for that. What I'm gonna do again, I'm gonna pause it and I'm gonna open it when I'm logged in properly. Okay, so let's have a look. So I'm logged in here, and what we will be doing now, we will start installing those apps which we want as a pre-installed apps for further deployment in the virtual machine. And also I'm gonna create a folder in C drive. So let's say if you want to create, or if you want to put a specific file in the C drive, so that will be available every time when the deployment happens for other VMs. So let me call it staff contact number, and let's say it's a text file, and I can say mobile numbers. Okay, so that's fine. So at least now you know there is a folder and there's a file in there. So the idea is that this folder will appear in every deployment as well in future. Yeah, so I'm gonna close this, and what I will be doing, I'm gonna install a Windows no, I'm gonna install a Chrome browser, I'm gonna install Adobe Reader, and I'm gonna install Office apps in here, and then we will capture this image. So while I'm doing that, meanwhile I'm gonna pause this and I'm gonna show you after everything get installed. Hi guys, so I have installed Google Chrome, Acrobat Reader, Adobe Acrobat Reader, and if I click on start button, I can show you I've got some Office apps. So this is Office 2007 for the demo purpose. So I've got some Office apps as well. Well, I've got all of those old Office apps. Yep. So we have all those things, and remember we have created a folder here in C drive, and we called it staff contact numbers, and there's a file inside it. Okay, so now the next stage will be to generalize it by running sysprep. So what is sysprep? If you don't know, I'm simply going to show you here. So when you run sysprep, it removes PC specific information from the Windows image. This is what we want. We don't want to capture the image with the PC info attached in it. Yep. And also it uninstall any PC specific driver. So it gives you a fresh, good image for out of box experience of the customer. Okay. So right, let's go back in our virtual machine, and let's run the sysprep. So let's open the command prompt, and if you know the path of sysprep, it should be inside Windows, and I think it's a folder itself called sysprep. No, the file is inside the folder. So let me just quickly check. sys start. Yeah, the file is actually inside the folder. So let's say sysprep. Let's run it. In here you will click on generalized and you will click on shutdown. So what really this means that it will generalize the image, and then the VM will shut down. So your remote desktop will be disconnected. Yep. So let's click on OK. Okay. So that image now has been generalized. I'm simply going to click on OK. And I'm gonna just close this. Let's go back in Azure and let's make sure if I refresh it. Okay, and then after you refresh it, just make sure you know it's not running. All we have to do is click on stop. And then do you want to do, no, we don't. Yes, we want to stop. So just click on OK there. So we click on stop and then we click on OK. So it's stopping the virtual machine now, and we wait until this is successful. So you will get the message under notification that it is successful. Okay, so let's click on that and click on again, and it's successfully stopped virtual machine. Great. Now we can start capturing it. So all you have to do is just click on capture. Okay, so in here, what we need to do is we need to select our resource group that we created in our first step. We called it something like captured image or something, remember? So if I click on here, it is grayed out. The reason is that we have not selected no capture, only a managed image. So if I click on that, that unlocks that option. And if I click on it, then I can choose the resource group that I created earlier. Okay, now also, so when this is done, do I need that virtual machine which we have used to capture the image? Now remember, we have generalized it, so more or less is not much use at the moment. Okay, so I will happily delete it after creating an image. Okay, and then what we need to, so leave that option, because this is only for if you want to use it in, if you want to use this image in any availability zone. So we don't worry about it, we don't need that. All we need to define is it's a name of a newly captured image. So the name would be, rather I can say, server image, and you can put the date, or rather, you can put like, month, just for your reference, so that makes things easy for you to understand if you have multiple images. So let's click on review and create, and now it is creating, well, create an image. So it is creating the image. No, it has passed the validation. We need to click on create to create that image. Okay, so the deployment is complete, and on that note, our previous virtual machine should have deleted by now. In order to confirm that, you can click on notification icon here, and successfully deleted VM. So this was the one we have chosen, where we ran sysprep. So now let's click on go to resource, and this is our server image, Fab 2021. And now you can see you have an option here already called create a VM out of it. So now we are on that step that we're going to create a virtual machine. We're going to define, those things again, username and password. And once we log in, it will have all those apps installed in it already. And that folder, don't forget. So let's click on create VM. And now you have choice where you want, which resource group you want to use. I'm going to put this new VM back in my VM resource group. You can create a new resource group as well. I'm going to call it test VM. I'm happy with all that, because this is the name of my image. So I'm happy with all that. All I would have to do now is just define a username. So let's keep it same, really, VM secret, and the password. Let me do this again. So okay, so that's done. We need RDP to be allowed, and I'm not going to touch any other settings really in this, okay, because we're just going to quickly test it. So I'm going to click on review and create, and let's click on here, and there's a problem here. You see the red dot? So let's click on that and find the problem. So the problem is this. So license type, I'm simply going to say Windows Server. Let's click on that, and I can confirm. That's fine. Let's click on review and create. The validation is running, and then we can click on create. Great. So now it is creating a VM out of our image. The deployment is complete, and we can click on go to resource. And in here, we only need the public IP address to connect to our newly deployed VM. So let's open my remote desktop connection, and let's paste my public IP address there. This is the same credentials that we defined while deploying image. Okay. So, moment to test. I'm expecting Chrome, Adobe Reader, all the apps of Microsoft Office 2007, and also a folder that we created earlier. Great. So you can see, guys, that those two things are there already. So that the capturing worked very well. And you see, this lab is really easy to do. It's just, and it's good, like, this is like a cloud replacement of WDS, really. So once that is done, let's open start. Let's click on start button and see if, there you are. So we can open Microsoft Office as well if you like. So all the apps are there. And what about that folder? Let me click on the folder there. Come on. Okay, and let me click on this PC and double click on C and staff contact numbers. Brilliant. So the lab is successful. I did tell you guys, this is a piece of cake, right? The lab is very easy and it's really fun to do it. I would definitely recommend you to do this lab. It's very good. I will see you in my next lab now.